Alright, here we are at episode 31 of Dear Kevin, my daily video series where I talk about the work that Kevin Smith, the filmmaker, has done. As always, I'm George Efta. I'm a screenwriter myself, and Kevin Smith's my hero, so I like to talk about the shit he does. I'm coming up on CLERKS II. The idea is to go, chronological order. Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, so on and so forth. But I realized I fucked up, I made a mistake, and I forgot something. So, rewinding the clock a bit, I mentioned that Kevin Smith does comic books. He did the Clerks comic book, which I talked about. Well, sometimes he does these interconnected, middle missing sections of what happens with his characters in between movies. Kind of like Rogue One. Hey, wasn't that trailer really good? Fucking really good trailer. Anyway, so in the same way that Rogue One takes place in between Episode 3 and Episode 4 of Star Wars, the thing I'm going to review today, Chasing Dogma, takes place, weirdly enough, in between Chasing Amy and Dogma. So, it was originally published as a trade paperback. I think it was actually originally published as like 4 individual issues, and then published as a trade paperback. I don't have either of those. I have the ultimate Tales from the Clerks graphic novel trade paperback, which has all of the Kevin Smith stuff in it. This is every View Askew related comic book, up till now anyway. From the Clerks comic book that I already talked about, all the way through the CLERKS II comic book that, shows how Dante and Rantel ended up at the movies. It's also got a bunch of other stuff. I'll probably do a whole review just on this at some point. It's got a bunch of exclusive comics that are only been published here. So today we're talking about Chasing Dogma, which is a story that takes the Jay and Silent Bob characters from Chasing Amy, their last scene in Chasing Amy, to their first scene in Dogma. If you remember in Dogma, or in Chasing Amy, let's start there at the beginning. If you remember, there's that scene in Chasing Amy where they show up, the one Jay and Silent Bob scene. Matter of fact, it's, that scene. Anyway. At the end of that scene, Jason Mewes says, hey man, we gotta catch a bus to Chi-Town, saying we're gonna go to Chicago. And they leave the diner. And then, they show up in Dogma, in McHenry, Illinois, which is near Chicago. So, how did they get there? What happened between Jersey and Illinois that might be interesting to us Kevin Smith, Jay and Silent Bob fans? So, the first issue actually starts that morning, the morning they go to the diner. And I'm trying to find the cover of the fucking thing for you. Jesus. There we go. Chasing Dogma. Here's the cover. It's 4 issues. A little introduction by Alanis Morissette, God herself. There we go. Chasing Dogma, trade paperback. The art was done by Duncan Fegredo. F-E-G-R-E-D-O. Sorry if I said that wrong. Colored by Lauren Allred, lettered by some other people. Blah, blah, blah. Lauren Allred, I believe, is related to or married to Mike Allred, the guy who created Mad Men comic book, not the TV show. So, in the first issue, that's what the art style looks like, by the way. Very cool, semi-realistic, but still goofy, over-the-top art style. A lot of detail, a lot of lines, a lot of black line work going on. The first issue finds Jay and Silent Bob crashing at little Trish the Dish's house, Trish the Dish being a character from Mallrats. She kicks them out, they go hang out at the mall for a while and watch some John Hughes movies, which is where Jay gets the idea, fuck, there's nobody dealing weed in Shermer, Illinois, which is where all those movies, Pretty in Pink, Breakfast Club, so on and so forth. All those movies are set in that same fictional town of Shermer, Illinois. Jay says, there's nobody there selling weed, we should go there and sell weed. So, at the end of the first issue, they hit the road, they leave the diner. They don't show the diner scene, but it shows them entering the diner. And then, Jay, as they're going into the diner to meet Holden to get their money, Jay says, let's get in here real fucking quick. I'm in a hurry to catch this goddamn bus. And when they're leaving, he's like, what the fuck is with you telling that Amy story all the goddamn time? I told you we were in a hurry, and they got to catch the bus. From there, it goes on to a series of misadventures. They end up meeting up with a monkey, and, an orangutan, technically, an ape. And the whole section from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where they see a monkey, and they go on the run, and they do the Fugitive parody, that's all in the comic book, and Kevin recycled that material because he always wanted to work with a monkey. There's a sequence where they hang out, it's not in LA, they hang out some part of the country on their road trip, and they end up working on a, what does he call it? Quasi-indie film is what it's called. Neil Patrick Harris, Doogie Howser, he's in this comic book, playing an adult version of himself, and the Neil Patrick Harris in this comic is has grown up out of his young Doogie Howser TV personality to produce porno films. So he's doing a Doogie Howser parody called Doogie Nights, just because, Boogie Nights is a good movie. And Jay and Silent Bob end up in that for a while. They end up hanging out finally in Illinois, where they get a wardrobe change. And finally, at the end, they're sitting there, you know, lamenting their fate. What the fuck are we gonna do? When from off panel you hear they're like, "Get the fuck away from me!" Blah blah blah. Their introduction scene in Dogma. So the last panel of the comic book is them jumping out of the comic and into the movie to defend Bethany and beat up the fucking Stygian triplets from Dogma. There it is. So their first line in Dogma was "Snooch to the motherfucking nooch." There's the panel with them leaving. So it's a pretty cool comic. I don't know why I forgot to do it back in the day. I mean, I guess I'm episode 31, so I guess I'm moving pretty quick now. I feel like I've changed a lot. Like how I do these things has changed a lot since the beginning. Obviously, Chasing Amy was a while ago. So I wanted to say a little quick something about Chasing Dogma. You can find it online. I believe they have signed copies at the Stash. You can find the trade paperback. You can find the Tales from the Clerks Complete View Askew collection. You can get it at half.com or Amazon. Pretty cheap. If you're into comic books at all, particularly like indie comics or non-superhero comics, it's really fun. The art's a lot of fun. It's very vibrant. There's always a lot of action going on. The writing's spectacular. You can absolutely hear it in your head. And it's just a cool little, you know, sneak behind-the-scenes thing for the hardcore fans to kind of put the pieces together of how did Jay and Silent Bob, these New Jersey stoners, pop up in Dogma. It's a fun little story. It's madcap. It's fun. It's a big, bright, colorful thing. If you thought Dogma was a little bit too heavy-handed or Chasing Amy was a little bit too serious and depressing, Chasing Dogma is a perfect little bridge to, like, let's just have some fun. And it's really interesting to read, knowing that he would eventually make Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, because this is really their first standalone story where they have to hold the front and center. There's no other characters around them. It's just those two. And they hold up. They're really strong characters. Obviously, the Jay character does most of the heavy lifting, being that he can talk. Just like the movie, they're a lot of fun to be together anytime that they're doing shenanigans. The stuff that Silent Bob does in the background of panels, very charming and likable. And as I said, as a fan of the Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back movie, it's cool to see the whole ape sequence where they have the orangutan. It's cool to see that he did that before the comic book. In fact, one more thing I can tell you before I get into my Dear Kevin of it all for this week. This week, I always do that. For today, on the Evening with Kevin Smith DVD, the first one, Volume 1, he talks about some encounters with other people in the industry, you know, filmmakers, actors, whoever. And he tells the Tim Burton story, which I mentioned in that review. And how he bitch-slapped Tim Burton pretty hard. But at the end of the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes, which is fucking awful, there's that weird sequence where Marky Mark goes back in time, except he goes forward in time, but goes back in time. And he lands at the Lincoln Memorial and goes up the steps, and instead of Lincoln sitting there in his big goddamn chair, it's like a fucking ape. A Lincoln, you know, Abraham Lincoln, if you will. Well, weirdly enough, that same image was actually in this comic book before the Clerks II, before Tim Burton did it. So Kevin Smith did that image before Clerks II. I did it again. Kevin Smith did the Abraham Lincoln, you know, going back to a weird time where the apes fuck up the Statue of Liberty or the Abraham Lincoln Memorial. He did it before Tim Burton did. And Kevin Smith tells the story on the DVD about how, you know, Tim Burton never read this fucking comic book, would never read a comic book, like, fuck Kevin Smith, I didn't steal anything from him. But here's the image for you, there's the proof. Got my finger over it. So, it's got a lot of cool ties to a bunch of different stuff. It's got cool ties to even Kevin Smith, cool ties to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Obviously some cool ties to Dogma and Chasing Amy, seeing that it bridges the two movies. So check it out if you get the chance. Sorry I'm a little bit low energy today. I realized I'd forgotten it, so I'm kind of kicking myself for fucking up. I just finished my week of work, and I've been up for a long time, as per usual. And I'm excited to move forward and, you know, talk about Clerks II and stuff, but I had to go back and do this one. So hopefully this is a little bit of a shorter video. Just wanted to let you know it exists. Chasing Dogma, the comic book. Very cool. Very fun. And now let me get my dear Kevin for today. Dear Kevin Smith, I very much like Chasing Dogma. I like all your comic books. They're very fun. Chasing Dogma in particular I like because it's such a balls to the wall, you know, goofy, silly fucking movie. Like, it's the silliest thing you've done with those characters. I can't say I haven't seen Yoga Hosers or Moose Jaws, so maybe you go fucking even sillier, but in terms of just like those Jay and Silent Bob characters, it's so silly, it's so much fun, you know, letting those characters exist in the world without a film budget. It was a lot of fun to read. And in particular, I always loved the Neil Patrick Harris bits. I like the monologues he gives about the nature of indie film. I like the fact that the Neil Patrick Harris you wrote in this movie, or in this comic, is very, like, highly verbal and very talky and not pretentious, but like just very much aware of his child star status, and now he wants to move on to becoming a real artist. Very fun stuff. And that's what I'm going to talk about for this Dear Kevin is, I know you and him had this like minor tiff on Twitter very briefly where they asked, somebody had asked NPH, Neil Patrick Harris, about, you know, acting, playing drunk, playing stoned or whatever, and he'd made reference to Jason Mewes saying like, look at Clerks, like that guy's not an actor, he's just a drugged out freak. And of course you were like, hey, what the fuck, he is an actor, he's gotten clean, like he was never drunk or stoned on set, like that dude's an actor, like what the fuck are you talking about? And NPH very quickly said, you're right, I said that wrong, like no harm intended, blah blah blah. So, I'm assuming everything's cool between you guys. And I just think he'd be a real good fit in one of your movies. I think that you guys, your sense of humor, I think makes sense. I think you guys have a similar, you know, a similar heart. I think that he's a fantastic actor. You know, I love How I Met Your Mother and a bunch of stuff like that. He's fantastic in Gone Girl. And I just think that he would do really well in one of your movies. I think that I'd like to see you work with him. In the same way, years and years ago, back in like 2005 when I fell in love with you, I remember thinking, boy, I really want Kevin Smith to make a movie with Johnny Depp someday. Swear to God, that's true. On some thread on the internet, somebody said, what actor-director pairings would you want? And I was like, I want Brad Pitt and Johnny Depp to make movies with Kevin Smith. So you should do Brad Pitt next. But in that same way, and I was right, fucking Johnny Depp's fantastic working with you and spitting out your dialogue and these long monologues that you got him to say in Tusk. In that same way, I think you should work with Neil Patrick Harris in some capacity. It seems like he's game, he's up for anything. You know, he's done, you know, small video shorts like Dr. Horrible, he's done movies, he's done R-rated stuff, done television, he's done variety shows, hosted the Oscars. It just seems like, you know, obviously he played himself in the Harold and Kumar movies. It seems like he's like a lot of fun, and he doesn't take himself too seriously as an actor, or himself too seriously in terms of not wanting to do silly shit or say vulgar things or do vulgar things. And I just think that he's such a fantastic talent, as are you. So I'd like to see you guys do something together. Very simple, Dear Kevin, completely random, but I love that sequence in the comic book in Chasing Dogma, always have. I always loved your interpretation of Neil Patrick Harris, which again, I'm pretty sure, just like the Tim Burton thing, I think you writing like an adult, vulgar, sexualized Neil Patrick Harris predates the Harold and Kumar movie, so good on you for being a trailblazer, just like with the fucking, you know, semen in the hair thing you did in Mallrats that they made you cut out, which later showed up in Something About Mary. Anyway, I'm rambling, Mr. Kevin Smith, sir. Thank you for the comic book. Hope you're watching these. Hope you like it. And please work with Neil Patrick Harris someday. Neil Patrick Harris is the man, and so are you. So you guys should be men together and make awesome things that are funny. Sincerely, George. In my personal life, guys, if you're still watching, I did get that job at the meadery. So I'm going to be working... Mead, by the way, is fantastic fermented wine. It's honey wine. You take honey and you take thyme and you take sugar and yum, and it's good. So I'll be working there. Looks like I might even have a chance to do some filmmaking for these people, which is very fantastic. I've been wanting to work there for a while, so I get to leave Circle K, I get to stop doing 7-day weeks, I get to stop doing graveyard shifts. I am thoroughly excited about all that shit. So I'm going to obviously try and stay on top of the videos for you. I've got some other ones coming up. I've got a few days off in between leaving Circle K and starting at the meadery. The Hive is what it's called. So during those few days, I'm going to try and record a bunch of videos for you, start some new video series. So I hope you guys are still watching. I hope you're still enjoying it. Sorry this video is a little bit random and all over the place and probably not as detailed as it could be because I forgot. Shit, I forgot to do Chasing Dogma. So next time I'll be talking about, not Clerks 2 yet. There's a little bit of video, a little bit of build up before Clerks 2. Next time I'll be talking about the Snowball Effect documentary, the making of the first Clerks. And I'll explain why next time. But I'll be back doing more things for you. I'll try and do better for you next time. And as always, check me out on the blog at Adolescent Conceptions. Check me out on Twitter at George Efta. Check me out on Facebook. Read my scripts, and here they are, some of them anyway. Read my scripts on the blog. Like me, share me, hate me, positive, negative comments, whatever you want to do. And I'll see you tomorrow for the next thing. And thank you for watching as always. Have a good weekend. Have a good Friday. And see you next time.